I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
When Black Lives Matter too, then finally all lives will. Because we can't say all lives matter when the ignorance of racism is alive still. When and where should Black Lives matter? Is it on the sacred Sunday mornings when the gospel's being preached? Is it during the midnight hour on urban streets when it seems the profiling of darker shaded skin is at its peak? Is it in the neighborhood where allegiance to gang colors take precedence over skin color, where peace treaties are seldom reached, where the law of love your neighbor is violated because street codes have been breached? When and where should Black Lives matter? Just a few suggestions, if I may. First, Black lives will matter when Black lives matter to all Black lives. When I don't respect myself, I give you permission to do the same. Black lives matter when the hand on the trigger wouldn't dare be another shade of black or brown, and when the self-destructive and culturally toxic word nigger is unacceptable and no longer allowed. When dads stay home to cover their families and Black mothers want them there. When dad's no longer rolling his stone everywhere. For Black lives to matter elsewhere, it has to matter to us first. It's when we give birth to a generation that knows nothing less than the fact that the Black face in the mirror has inherent self-worth. When and where should Black lives matter? When Black lives matter in the Black church. When it's not just about tradition or emotion or behind-the-scenes politics and promotions, but a sincere devotion to restore the village that used to raise those little Black kids that look like me. It's making disciples beyond the pulpit and the Sunday production. Because how can you transform what you're afraid to touch? And if the shepherd doesn't smell like the sheep, they won't change too much. Then the village stays desperate to be nurtured outside those 4 walls. Before the street life calls, before the gavel falls, are there any mentors on call? Now don't be mad at me, I'm just repeating what young Black lives are saying, giving words and a voice to what they're contemplating. When and where will Black lives matter? When the media gets beyond its own hypocrisy and not be afraid to stream more positive images of Black lives making a difference. There's more to Black lives than the tragedy featured in the documentaries. They show the images that people fear the most, yet they seem to fear the images of the Black lives that care the most, that adhere the most to the laws of God and man. They show the fraction of our community that fractures the image of the whole, neglecting to capture the reality of the educators, legislators, and engineers with Black skin to behold. Instead, they perpetuate a narrative that further instigates an attitude of victimization. In fact, Black lives will matter when we tell more of our own stories on their networks. We don't all play ball, crack jokes, and write rap music. Now I turn my attention to those who reply, but all lives matter. Well, this is true. I couldn't agree more. All lives matter, but not all lives are valued. And by the way, racism is not erased by a well-intentioned, celebrity-laced PSA or new laws written for the land, nor does it disappear because some say so with heads buried in the sand. Before it's ever a transgression, it's an attitude nurtured in the bowels of man as old as this country's lifespan. It's just been carefully, and in some cases prayerfully, codified to not appear as the predecessors who once openly espoused its principles and housed its demonic spirit. To Black victims, Blatant racism has the same effect as those who are silent, crippled, and blinded by the convenience of indifference. If all lives matter, then the context that leads to the loss of a life should not trump the fact that we lost a life. When and where will Black Lives Matter? When we stop trying to modify behavior and deal with the root of the issue. For some, it's ignorance. For some, it's generational. For all, it's spiritual. If man alone could eradicate this, it would have happened by now. We're overdue for surrender to the divine, anticipating a divine miracle. The miracle of transformation within the hearts of humankind. When Black Lives Matter too, then finally, all lives will. Yours and mine.